Today, I'll be showing you how to build a fully fledged decentralized exchange in just about an hour or so. And it's going to have all the functionality you can imagine, same as Uniswap, 1inch, whatever swap platform you're using today. This will have the same functionality. And here is the final result. You're going to be able to select from all of the tokens that are available to trade. And you can select the from token and the to token. We can select here as the rent token. You can fill in a price, automatically get the quote in the other token, and you can actually perform the swap. And it's not just a pretty interface. Behind this is the actual 1inch platform actually doing the swap. So the assets will swap. It will be just like doing it on Uniswap or any other platform. And the reason that we can build this so quickly in just about an hour or so is because of Moralis. We will be utilizing Moralis, and especially the Moralis plugins. Let's see, where do we have them here? Moralis plugins. We're going to use the 1inch plugin for Moralis. So currently we only have 2 plugins. So 1inch DEX tools is what we're going to use to very easily integrate 1inch into our platform. With just one line of code, we can get the price. With just one line of code, we can do the swap. With just one line of code, we can approve smart contract. So let's see, I sign in here with MetaMask, and I don't have 10 ETH in my wallet. I have 1 ETH. There we go. And now I can confirm the swap. I don't want to swap my ETH to REN, but this is how it's done. And I hope you will follow along for this journey. You'll learn the amazing techniques you'll need to utilize Moralis to build dapps quickly, and how to use Moralis plugins in order to integrate external services into your dapp. Because in terms of Moralis plugins, this is just the beginning. We have launched 2 of our own plugins. Soon we'll open up for third-party developers to develop plugins, and there'll be an entire library here of things to integrate. I hope you're excited to get started. I wish you good luck. Let's get started. All right, we're going to begin in Visual Studio Code. That's what I'm using for my editor. And you need a new project, new folder, and we're going to create a few files. First of all, index.html, which will be our main page. We're going to create main.js, which will be our main JavaScript file, maybe our only one. And we're going to create style.css for our CSS. And then I'm going to use the boilerplate code from the Moralis GitHub, which I will link down below, but you can search for Moralis sign-in boilerplate, just Moralis boilerplate, and you should find it. And I will copy the contents of this HTML file, which will give us some basic things that we might need. First of all, web3.js, jQuery. I don't think we're going to use jQuery, but it's in here. Moralis.js, Bootstrap, and that's it. Then it's our own file, style.css, main.js. So copy that into index.html. We're going to modify it in a little bit, but we're also going to get the main.js file. Or should we do? Yeah, let's bring this in as well. In here. Here we go. And of course, you also need a Moralis server. So we need the app ID and the server URL for Moralis. So we're going to go to Moralis, and we're going to get our server details. So we're going to create a new server, mainnet server. We can call it DEX. I'll call it V2. I've already experimented with the DEX here, but I'm going to create a new one so that you can see the process, because we need to install a plugin. We're going to do it on ETH now, but you can do it on any network. And then we need to wait a few minutes for that to start. But while it's doing that, we can go ahead and have a look at the Moralis plugins. So moralis.io/plugins. Here you'll find the current plugin library, and we're just getting started. So I have 2 plugins so far, 1inch DEX tools and Fiat on-ramp. And we're going to start by using the 1inch DEX tools. And what this does is that it allows us to very easily get all the tokens from 1inch and get a quote, meaning get the suggested price for a swap between 2 tokens. And then check if we have the allowance to do the swap. If not, we can call the approve function, and then we can call the swap function to facilitate the swap. And so we need to install this plugin into our server once it has booted up. So now it has booted up. And we do that by going to this plugin store, Moralis.io/plugins, and then click install the plugin. This will bring us to the admin panel. And here we should select the server. And I'm going to select DEX v2, which I just created. Keep in mind, as it says here, that you need a specific server version, or rather a server with a higher version than this in order for it to work. You can't have an old server because then we hadn't introduced plugins yet. So click confirm and just click install, and plugin installing. It will take a few minutes to do that as well. And you can check the status by going to plugins and seeing here installing. While it's doing that, we can go to our index.html file and clean up a bit. We can name this my DEX title. We're going to delete this Jumbotron. I'm not going to use that. Instead, we're going to pull in a nav bar, I think. We're not going to have the login button in the container. We'll remove that. We're already bringing in our style sheet here, style.css, and here we're bringing in main.js. And in the main.js, we have a login function, which will bring in the current user and authenticate using MetaMask when we click the login button. So here is the one-click handler. And let's see, is there anything else we can do in here? Let's see if it's actually done. It's not. There we go. Now it is done. Now it's just going to reboot the server, and that's it. While it's... Oh no, we can't grab the server details. It needs to reboot. There we go. Once it has rebooted, we're going to view details. We're going to get the server URL. Copy that. Main.js server URL. Paste that there. App ID. There we go. Save that. And then I want to, here are the container. I want to start by adding a Bootstrap navbar. So let's search for that, Bootstrap navbar. And we click here, navbar, and we're going to get one of these navbars. It will look like this. It will be collapsible, all of that stuff. We're going to paste that in above our container. And then we need to delete some stuff here, I think. If you want to have a look at this in our browser first, because we open this with the live server, you need to install the live server plugin if you want to use this. Because you need a local web server in order to be able to use MetaMask and Moralis. So either use this or use a simple Python server. But in Visual Studio Code, you can use live server, and it will open up it on localhost. And here you can see our menu at the top with a search field. You can search, a drop-down menu. But we're going to remove most of this, but it looks quite good, so we're going to keep the look and feel. So first of all, we can have the home link still there. We can rename this here brand to my DEX. Let's remove. We have home. Let's remove link. That's the second element. We're going to remove the drop down. We're going to remove this disabled link. And here then we have our search form. And I'm not sure if we need the form. I think we can remove the form and just keep the button. Because we're not going to have a search thing. We're just going to have a button that says sign in with MetaMask. There we go. And this is going to say sign in with MetaMask. And this should be btn outline primary, not success. I don't know if these classes do anything in particular. Active. Let's check this out. Oh, this should have ID. What was the ID of the sign in button? Login button. Should be the ID, so we can use that later to actually do the sign in, even though we're not going to do it straight away. So now we should have the nav bar completed. There we go. Home, sign in with MetaMask. Now I can move on to the actual content. So in the actual container, we're going to create a div class row. So this is where we'll have the Bootstrap content. And here we're going to create a single column because I want to create like a Uniswap-like interface. So we're going to have class column, and let's say this is column medium 6. And then in order to center this, I will write offset medium 3. So that means that our column will be 6 columns wide out of 12. And on each side, there will be, or rather on the left side, there will be a 3-column offset, which means we'll have 3 columns on one side, 3 columns on the other side, 6 columns in the middle. 3 plus 6 plus 3 is 12. That's the full page. So this will give us sort of a single column in the middle, and here we can have our sort of trading window, right? And then we can have some sort of title in here. We're going to do an H4 that says swap, and then let's have a div which will contain our 2 so let's have a look at Uniswap first of all, what it looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this. Here we have our column in the middle already. We're going to build this thing. So we have some input boxes here, really 2 big input boxes, but in each input box I can select the token here. It opens up a pop-up, and then I can input the amount here. All right, so that's what we're going to achieve. And then we select the token here, input the amount here, or rather the amount will be automatically set here. When I select the token here, it will give me the price, or rather how many of I get for the so that's what we're going to build. So we need to build these 2 boxes, so they will be inside here. I will give this ID form, and then inside the form I need these 2 boxes. We're going to create those 2 divs. Let me give it class swap box. We're going to have 2 swap boxes, because that's where we select the token and the amount. And then inside each swap box, I want to have 1 input field here, which is this drop down, and then 1 input field here for the amount. So I'll create a div which will be the let's call it swap box select, because we'll make a selection here. I'm gonna give it ID. Well, let's work with ID. I don't know exactly what we're gonna call that. This is one of the forms, and then we have the right hand side, which will be, let's also call this class swap box select, and here we'll have an input field. Here we know we have an input field class. It's going to be number here, so we're filling the amount. We'll also give it class form dash control. That's the Bootstrap class for input fields. Placeholder amount, we're going to fill in the amount. ID should be from amount, because here we'll select the from token and the from amount, and then the second box beneath it will be the to token, what we want to swap to. So we're going to have the same in here. And now I think we can view this in our browser and maybe style it a bit so that it looks sort of what we're looking for. Let's check this out. Wow. Almost looks perfect, right? Don't worry, we're going to get there. All right. So first of all, our swap box here. Oh, well, let's see, our actual entire column. That's not the swap box. This thing, maybe give it some margin to the top. There we go. Maybe give it a background color. Could give it black for now. Then we have to set color white so we can see anything. Give it some padding. There we go, starting to look like something. For the radius, the Uniswap almost a bit round, so we're going to do it a bit round, like so. And we could also give it some shadow. There we go. So let's set that to this column element. So let's say copy all of that, and let's check out. This does not have an ID yet, so we're going to give this an ID. We'll call this window, and then we can set it in our style.css. We can set ID window and have this style right here. And now let's check out these boxes. So we have 2 of these boxes, and inside of them we have right now an empty div, which we actually should fill out with the token information, and then we have the input box for the amount. Let's just put some dummy data inside of this swap box select here. So here we'll have token select. We'll have the same thing down here, because then we'll give it some space here. And then I want these to have width 50%, and same thing for the other one. Now let's see if I put it on the, can I put it on the swap box select class? No, okay, I can't. I'm sure there's a way, but I don't know the way. And float left. Let's do the same thing with this just to see what it looks like. Float left. There we go. So now it's starting to look like something. We need something that looks like this, right? Amount here, select here. Let's set that to our swap box select class. There we go. And now it's the same for both of them. Good. Now we have this normal issue here where the parent div has height or width 0 because we have floated element. We can solve that by saying overflow auto. I will give this the normal height that it should have. So this should be for the swap box. The swap box should probably also have some margin. So let's say margin bottom should be, what should we take? 20 pixels? Or should it be both top and bottom? Try that on the swap box. There we go. That looks okay. And then should we give these swap boxes some, yeah, these should have another color and they should have some border, and yeah, let's do that. So there should be some padding here on the swap box, yes. So let's say we have 20 pixel padding. We have background color. It should be like a grayish, or rather something like that maybe. We have border radius 20 pixels. Should have border 1px solid white, but let's make this not so here. So that looks quite good. Let's do that for both the swap boxes. There we go. Looks a bit better. Now let's move on to well, we can do the, let's do the rest of the UI. So we're gonna have a swap button here at the bottom. We can add that as well while we're at it. And then we'll start working on this token select, because this is quite a lot of work. We need to get all the tokens, populate them in a big list, be able to select from them. So we're gonna get started in that after the button. So after the entire form thing, or maybe we put it in the form, but after the swap boxes. Yeah, I guess it should be inside this black box, yeah. Let's put it here. So we're gonna have a button, it's gonna have class, btn, btn large, btn primary, and btn block, because I want it to be full width. And then we can give it an ID, swap underscore button, and we will set the text to swap. See how that looks. There we go. It's amazing what you can do with Bootstrap. It goes so quickly. Looks good. We have sign in here, swap here, amount, token select, token select. This needs to be to amount though. To amount from amount. We can't have the same ID. All right, let's start working on this token select. When we press the token select, we want to bring up this pop-up with a token list in it. All right. So we need to make this like a clickable thing, like we have here. Okay. And I guess the we should have similar to Uniswap, where we have an image and then the standard token, which is ETH. So we can have ETH here for now, and we'll give this swap box select. It'll probably not be this wide. Let's keep it this wide for now, but let's do it so that we can actually click on this. Let's give it some padding. Well, now both of them get padding. All right, let's wait with the padding. Let's just say that when we click on, or we'll give it an ID. So this is, let's give it another class. We want the same for the other one. Token select, the same class down here. Then we'll say token select colon hover. So when we hover over that, we want to give it some the background color. Let's do some grayish. Yeah, let's see how that looks. Just some random gray color. That didn't really do a lot, so let's give it some brighter color, maybe like that. I picked the same color as the background. Cursor should be pointer, and let's also give this token select some padding. Be 5px0. There we go. Now it looks like I can click on these and I can select the token. And when I do that, we should bring up a token select model, like, oops, that's lagging. Something like this, where we can scroll through all the tokens and select what we want to trade. And what we can do is we can use a Bootstrap Model, what do you call Model for this? Model, I don't know. And we can use that to bring up a window like this. So I'm gonna copy that. Call the modal. I have no idea. You're gonna hear me mispronounce this thing for the entire video. So let's grab this modal and let's put that in. Where should we put it? Doesn't matter where we put it. Let's put it at the end of the body, like right here. We can give this an ID, token model. The title should be select token. And then what do we need here? This is the close button, so we can keep the close button. Modal body, here is where we're gonna have the token list. So we can leave that for now. We're just gonna view it. Save changes. We're not gonna have any of these footer buttons because you're gonna press on the token to select it, not on a button. Now we just need to make sure that we open this up when we click the button. So let's create a function. Function is open model. And what we're gonna set is the ID token model to .style display is equal to block, I guess. That should be it. When should we do it though? So it's when we click on either of these. So we need to give those an ID. Token select here ID from, or let's call it from token. Oh, yeah, let's start with that one. We'll call this to token, or from token selected here. And this will be clear called to token select. So from token select, when we click on that, we're gonna run open model. Let's see if this works. When I click on this, there we go. Now I can select the token. All right, now we need to populate with the list here of tokens. And that means that we need to call the 1inch API to get all the tokens. And this we should probably do when the page loads, because it will be a lot of tokens. So we don't want to load them into this model when we, I can't close it yet, when we press this button, because then it's going to take time to load. So we want to load this list in the background and then just display it when someone presses this thing right here. We should also make sure we can close it, because that's quite frustrating. So where's the close button? Close button, let's give this an ID, model close. So when that is pressed, model close, we're gonna run close model, find that, play none. Open, close, open, close. All right, now let's start working with the 1inch API. So if we go to the 1inch DEX plugin page, we can see that we have this function here, get supported tokens, which calls Moralis plugins 1inch get supported tokens. And this we're gonna call in when we load the page, basically. We can check out the response that we get back. So let's create an init function. Async function init, which will initialize the page. I will start by just calling this, and we'll call this function right here at the bottom. And we're going to use chain eth, by the way. We can leave that. We need to initiate the plugins first of all, though. So before we do anything, we need to initiate the plugins. Trying to see how we do that. Here we go. So we need to call await Moralis init plugins. We should also call moralis.enable here. We'll use that later on. This will initialize the Moralis Web3.js SDK. So let's see what we get out of this. Okay, so apparently I have to unlock my MetaMask now. There we go. Okay, so tokens. Here we get a big list of tokens, right? And each of this, it's an object with the address as key of the token, and then we can get the logo URI, the decimals, the name, the symbol, for all of the tokens that are available to trade over at 1inch. So now we're going to populate a list with all of these tokens when we load the page. We can also, I guess we can place this in a separate function, so we'll call it list available tokens, and we'll call that here. And tokens, and we'll put this thing in here. And what we're going to do with all of these tokens that we get back is to loop through them all and to populate a list in our model body here. So we need some sort of div here, div id token underscore list, which we're going to populate with an unsorted list, or unordered rather. All right, so list available tokens. We'll call this result, and then we'll get the tokens. So const tokens is equal to result.tokens, because that was how the result was presented to us. And then here we can start looping through this, but this is not a list. So this is an object with keys and values. So we need to do the special for loop for that. So const address in result, or rather in tokens. And then let token is equal to result dot token, or tokens, we already selected that, for the address. So this will give us a specific token object, and we'll loop through all of them here. Now what we're gonna do is that we need to build the HTML and append that to this token list that we created. So we can create the parent element out here. So let parent equal to document, why is it caps? Document.get element by ID token list. And then we're going to create another div in here, document.create element. So this will be the base for our like token row in this token list. We'll give this class name token row, and then we will create the HTML string, and this will be one of these multi-length HTML strings. And first of all, we'll have the image of the token icon, because that was also provided to us in the, let's see, where is it? Now we didn't call it anymore, but it was provided to us in the response from the 1inch plugin get supported tokens. And we'll give this a class token list image, and the source should be token.logo URI. That was the how we can find the image. And then we're gonna have the text element, so span class token list text, because we're gonna style this later on, and span, and then the content of the span will be token.symbol. All right, and then we can simply set div.inner HTML, so this was the div that we created here, to be equal to this HTML, and then we append this div as a child to the parent element, which was the list. Right, there we go. So this should populate the entire list. Now we're just gonna call it there. Let's see if this works. We open up the list. Oh man, it looks like the icons are huge. Let's see here. Token list image. Let's see here, with the 40 DEX. There we go. So just now every icon needs to be that small. So token list image, we need to modify the CSS with 40 pixels. There we go. Look at that. Now it's starting to look like something. And also, let's say that the model body, it shouldn't be this infinite long. We should be able to scroll in it, right? So let's say that the height should be 600 pixels and overflow should be scroll. There we go. Now we can scroll with the tokens. I mean, it's crazy how fast it is to develop. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So we're gonna set that to the model body. There we go. Save that. And then what more should we do in order to, so each row should we set some padding, so padding 5px 10px. Oh wait, this needs to be for every token row. There we go, it's a bit better. Yep. And then maybe, so we're going to select between these. We need to be able to click on these and maybe give it some background color when we hover over them, so it looks like we can actually press them. So token row colon hover, we'll give it the same color as here. There we go. And also cursor pointer. Wow, look at that. It's too great though. writer. So let's see here. Hover. This would be like that. Brighter gray. There we go. Looks good. Now I can click on these like so. Now the only question is what's going to happen when I, oh, let's see, we didn't actually do the overflow thing. Oh, we did. Why didn't that work? It's not called what I think it was called. Dash body. It's the Bootstrap class. Maybe we should have used the same standard for naming the classes. Alright, so now I can select this huge list of tokens, but what's going to happen when I click on them? Well, we need to call some sort of function, which then takes the contract, sorry, the address and the token details and displays it on the page and saves our selection. We need somewhere to save our selection, and I'm thinking that we should keep a global object here, like current trade, which will be an object, which I'm thinking we have from and to, and here we set the token object inside here. Alright, but I'm gonna leave it as an empty object for now. And then when we also need to set like div.onClick to something. So when we click on these divs, we need to run a function. So let's say we create a function called select token. We're gonna create that under here. Async function select token. First, what we need to do is close the model, of course. And then the question is, how do we get the address of the token we selected? What we can do is that we can add this as an attribute to the actual HTML, to this div here. So I'm going to set div.set attribute. I'm going to set data-address to the actual token. No, we had address up here. So the actual token address, I will embed that into the element as an attribute. Then when I click on this, I can let address be equal to event.target, which will be the element we clicked on, dot get attribute data-address. And let's see, let's console log that address, and let's see. So now when I open up the list, all of these will have an address embedded, so data address for each token. When I click on one of them, it will close and it will console log the address. Now we need to get the token info and save that in our global variable. So that means that current trade for either now from or to, we need to have some way of deciding between this. So let's say we create another global variable, which is current side, current select side. All right, and we set that when we open the model. Okay, so when we click on, where is this? When we click on from token select, we're gonna run a function here where we're gonna run open model, and then we're gonna input which side it is. So here it is from, because we click the from token select. And then in open model, we can say that the current select side is equal to side. And then we can use that in select token and set that the current trade for current select side is going to be equal to, somehow we need to get the tokens in here for the address. Maybe that also should be a global variable tokens. So when we list the available tokens, we're also going to set tokens equal to result of tokens, because then we can get them here as well, and then we can set them as our current trade. And then in here, let's also console log now the current trade to see if it works as intended. Unexpected token 65 from here. There we go. Missing a parenthesis. Let's click here. Let's click on, for example, DOS. Undefined. So that means that tokens for address was undefined. Why is so tokens here is undefined? It must be. Okay, no. Oh, now it worked. I maybe just forgot to refresh. So now it actually says from, and from is then equal to this token we selected, UMA. It has the URI for the image, voting token, name, and the symbol. Perfect. But we don't display it here yet. So when we select it, we want to display it as the current token inside our HTML. So here, this should be empty, and we should set this dynamically. We should also have an image here for the from token image. And we can also give this a class name because we're going to style two of them. Token image. We're going to set this when we select the token. Let's call this in another function like render interface. This is actually not async. And render interface is probably not going to be either. Then in here we're gonna document.get element by ID. We're gonna get the from token image, and we're gonna set the source equal to current trade dot from dot logo URI. We're gonna do the same thing for the actual text that was next to it, for the symbol text. Did we name that something? Here, from token select. Or let's see, no, the image should be inside of this div. Of course. And then we should have a span here, that is the symbol. So ID is from token text. And we can set that here equal to symbol, right? I think that's what it was called. Yes. Let's see if this works. So I select here, I select UMA, for example. Oh, yes, there we go. We just need to make it a bit smaller. How small should this be? Token image. With 40 pixels. There we go. Where's the text? Text did not work for some reason. Symbol, it should have worked. Okay, so token image. From token image, or token image needs to be styled. It's the same as this other token image. Here. Token list. But weird, what about the text? From token text, dot source, dot inner HTML. Alright. Now we need to refresh. We select math. Oh, what happened now? Properties of undefined. So current trade is undefined. Current trade from is undefined. What's going on here? Let's debug here when we select. Tokens is set. Address is null. Event.target. So can I see the attributes? Attributes. Doesn't have the attributes. What's going on there? It has the attributes. Why is it null? It works with that, but it doesn't work with math. Specifically, math doesn't work. What's wrong with math? Math has an address. Huh. Alright. It doesn't work here either. So let's try to do this without attributes. If the attributes are not working, let's try to do it in another way. Try to instead do onClick equal to anonymous function, an arrow function, where we run select token, but with the address as an argument. Let's try that instead. Address like that, and we put the address here. We use that instead of this. Let's try that. If that works better. I don't know what was going on. Maybe you can tell me. Refresh. Select. UMA. Now it worked. Math works. This. Okay, that works better. More reliable, it seems. Okay, so then we have the from thing, and this looks quite good, actually. We could maybe make this a little bit bigger, this text, but that's final details. Now we're going to do the same thing for this one, where we select the from token. We remove this. So then we need to do the same thing when we press the to token select. We're going to open up the open model, but with the side 2. And then the rest should work, because we do set the current select side, all of that. The only thing we need to do is when we render the interface, we need to also render the to token image and the to token text. Here we have to be a bit careful though, because if we haven't selected to token, it won't be able to render it. So we need to check if it's defined. So, and the same for from token. So if current trade.from, we can do this. And the same thing here, if current trade.to, we can do these two. There we go. That's render interface. Let's try this. Wait, we need to check the HTML also. This should be empty. It should have the same thing as here, but it should be to token image and to token text. To token select, that should work. Okay, let's click here, select math. Can't read properties of undefined. Does this work? Math? That works. Now it said it for both. This needs to be to, of course. That's why it didn't work. To and from. Now I can select here. I can select here. Boom. I can now select the pair I want to trade. That's incredible. I can fill in the amount here, but of course now we need to get the price. But when I fill in an amount, I want to calculate the price, get the quote from 1inch. So that's the next step. And if we take a look at Uniswap, you'll see that it's when I enter, when I enter an amount here, it doesn't fetch the price directly. It's when it actually does. But it also calculates it if I leave the box like that. And that's what I thought it would do. I actually didn't thought it updated it when I stopped typing also. But what we're going to do is when we leave focus from this box, then we're going to calculate price. And that's not too hard to do actually. There is a JavaScript event for when an input box like this loses focus, as it's called. Because when we have it selected like this, we call it having it in focus. And when we drop the focus of it, then there is an event file that we can listen to. And this event is called onBlur. So that's what we're going to set up a listener for. And what was this input box called? From amount. We're going to have a listener like this. Or from amount on blur. Then we're going to run a new function. We're going to call it get quote. All right, we're going to use that in order to get a quote from 1inch using the 1inch plugin. So this is going to be async. Async function get quote. And what we first need to do is get the value from the actual input field. So document.get element by ID for from amount, and then dot value to get the value out of that input box. Now we need to save this to a variable, of course, let amount be equal to that. We also need to convert it into, first of all, into actual way, meaning the smallest possible unit in Ethereum. And we do that through a Moralis function. So moralis.units.eth and eth, and then we take this entire thing. And then we also need to convert this into an actual number, because it will be a string as it is. So we're going to convert that into a number, and that will be our amount. And then in order to get the actual quote, we write like this: await moralis.plugins.1inch.quote. And then here we have our configuration options, and of course we can copy this from the plugin website also. We had get quote here, we can copy all of these just actually. Chain is going to be ETH. Then we just got to populate the other thing here. From token address. This is the token that we selected as our from token. And this we have in our current trade object. So current trade dot from dot address. And the same thing is true for the to token address, but here we have current trade dot to dot address. And amount is going to be amount that we got from the input field up here. And then finally we can console log the quote. What we should do as well is, before we get the quote, is to make sure that we actually have all of the data we need, so that we actually have selected the tokens. Because if we haven't selected the tokens that we want to trade from and to, then we can't get a quote, because we won't have these current trade from and to objects set. So we need to check that current trade dot from is actually set. So if it's not set, we will return. But we also need to check if current trade dot to is set. So if any of these are not set, then we will return to. And then we also need to check so that we actually have this amount. So let's move this down actually. No, let's have it here. And we'll check so that this is also set. And if none of those are set, we're gonna return. Okay. And that should be it for getting the quote. We're going to see the format that we get the quote in, and then we can continue. So let's go back to our website. And let's refresh. And now if I select tokens here, so first I select math, and I select Wi-Fi. And then we're going to fill in the amount, 100 math, and we'll see the quote we get for Wi-Fi. Here we got it back. When we left, I clicked outside the input box. We got the quote. Here it says from token, so it clarifies the token we selected. From token amount in way. But it struck me now that this should not be in way unless we are doing ETH. I mean, we should use the decimals. Now it was 18 decimals, but we should use the decimals that is in the from token to actually convert the amount from all units into the smart contract units, the units the smart contract use. So we need to use a decimal value from the from token. I'm going to change that. And then we have 2 token, and we have 2 token amount. So this would be the amount that we would write out here. And we would have to adjust it for the decimals of the 2 token. All right. So we got the quote here. This many math for this many Wi-Fi's. Okay. So let's adjust this for the right right decimals. Okay. So we're gonna do the number conversion, but inside that we should first take this and then multiply that by 10 to the power of whatever is in current trade.from decimals. So we're gonna multiply this by 10 to the power of current trade dot from dot decimals. Write this out on multiple lines. I think that will be correct. And then this, yeah, this will be converted to number. Yeah, that should be it. And then when we get the quote back, we need to set that in the to amount box. In this box, we need to set the amount that we got back. So once again, document.get element by ID to amount dot value is equal to quote dot to token amount is what it said. Now we don't have it there. Divided by, and here we have to do the same thing. We're going to divide it by the same thing we did here, 10 to the power of, but then use quote dot to token dot decimals, because well, we could use what we had in current trade as well. All the data come from one inch, but it feels better to use it from the recent quote, because then we know it's actually correct. And that should be it. We're gonna set it to that divided by that. Yes, let's try. Refresh and select the same thing again. So we're gonna do math to Wi-Fi. Put in 100 math. Is that what we did? And there, already got it. That's how many Wi-Fis we'll get. Let's take some more common examples. Let's see. We don't have a search function here yet. Maybe you want to add that. Let's add ETH. Let's see. Can I find ETH? There's ETH. Let's do ETH to Wi-Fi. Let's see how many Wi-Fis I get for 1 ETH. I get about 0.1. Let's check that. Let's check that price. If it's correct. Yearn finance. Yeah, looks about right. And because 1 Wi-Fi is about 9.7 ETH. So that means that 1 ETH would give us around 0.1. And we could also check, for example, ETH to USDT maybe. There we go. Let's check that out. 3,393. Let's check that out with ETH. Yeah, that's about right. The USDC amount could of course be a little bit different, and the quote is not always perfect. You have slippages and so on. Here we could also add, of course, that when we switch tokens, we also calculate the amount, because now we only do it when we leave this input box. We could also do it whenever we select a token. We could add that very easily. So we run get quote anytime we select a token. Where is that? Select token. Here we go. So we do it here. Get quote as well. And that's about it. We can also get from this quote. Now we didn't consolidate it anymore. What we should do, yeah. Let me do this again. I can show you that in this we also get the estimated gas. And that's very important. So let's add that so the user can see what the actual gas is. Let's add that above the button. Div ID gas estimation, gas estimate, and we'll set this when we get the get quote. Inner HTML is equal to quote dot estimated gas. Let's save and let's try again. Maybe, yeah, of course we cannot just do that. Let's do like this instead. So estimated gas colon, and then in here we'll put a span that has ID gas estimate. We want it to be clear to the user, not just output the number, but actually explain what it is. There we go. Let's try that instead. There we go, estimated gas. That will fill in automatically. Math, Wi-Fi, 100. There we go. Now all that's left is to implement the swap button. So when we swap, we'll get the MetaMask pop up and we'll actually perform the swap. So we already have our button and it's already called swap button. So we just need to write the function. So let's write the function async function swap, or maybe try swap, because we will also have the problem of, does the user, we need to check if the user has given allowance to the smart contract, the token smart contract, to actually let 1inch do the trade for them. So we need to check that first, because in order for 1inch to be able to perform the trade for you, you need to have given them the right to transfer your token in the actual token smart contract. So, but we can very easily check that using the Moralis plugin. So we're gonna do that. But here first, let's get the address of the user. Moralis.user.current.get get ETH address. I will get the address with Moralis. And it will be different here depending on if the symbol is ETH or not. If it's ETH, that is the from token, that means that we don't have to do any allowance check, because you always can send ETH. You don't need allowance. It's not a smart contract. So we'll separate based on that here. So if current trade dot from dot symbol is equal to ETH, then we can go ahead with the swap right away. Otherwise, we will do check allowance, and get allowance trade. Well, let's see. Let's put it the other way around. If it's not ETH, we'll do the allowance thing in here. And then we just get rid of this and we do trade down here. So if it's not ETH, that is the from token, we'll go directly into trade. But if it's not ETH, we'll check allowance and get allowance. Okay, so because then we minimize code duplication. So first of all, we need to get the amount once again. So the amount we're gonna trade will be the same as it was here. That amount. And then we'll get allowance from the current allowance from the Moralis SDK. So moralis.plugins.1inch.hasAllowance. This will give us a simple yes or no, or true or false, whether we have the allowance for this amount. And we can also get these options from the 1inch page. So here's hasAllowance. You can copy the options. This is going to be ETH from token address. We have that, as we know, current trade dot from dot address. That right? Yes. From address, that is our address, because we need to have an actual balance and we need to have an allowance. So we need to check against our address. The amount is the amount we selected here, and then we can get the allowance back. So we can console log the allowance, but in the end what we want to check is if allowance, because it will either just say false or it will give us an actual number, I think, or maybe it will just write 0. Maybe it will just write give us the number back. But if, well, I need to check this actually. But if allowance is bigger than amount, I want to check that. But let's check the console log first. So try swap, we're going to run try swap when we click on our swap button. We're going to have another listener here for swap button. On click, we're going to run try swap. All right, let's try this. Let's do this. Math, Wi-Fi, 100. Boom. Get the price, estimated gas. I click try swap. Let's see. Cannot read properties. Null. Reading get. Try swap. Where is this? I'm not signed in. I need to be signed in order to swap. So we should disable the button. Disabled as, you know, the initial condition, and then it only way to get it enabled is to log in. So do we have the login function yet? Yeah, we do. So if we successfully log in, which would be here, then we can enable the button. So document.getElement by ID swap button dot disabled is equal to false. But otherwise, now we won't be able to press it because it's disabled. But if I sign in, let's see, did we connect this button? Yes, we did. Sign. Now the button is enabled, and now we can do the swap. Should we do some other tokens now? We do bat to grid. Let's see if there is such a pair. There we go. Let's do the swap and let's see what we get. Okay, so now we just get false. All right, so this will be a boolean. Maybe I should zoom in here more so that you guys see. This will be a boolean. And that means that we don't do any check and comparison between the amount. We just get true or false if it has enough allowance or not. And if it doesn't, then we have to get the allowance. So if allowance is true, then we can go ahead with the trade, but that we're going to do down here. So if allowance is false, here we have to get the actual allowance. And that is also in the 1-inch DEX here. It's the approve function. We can run it here. Moralis plugin 1-inch dot approve. And once again, we need chain ETH. Token address is the current trade from address. And from address is our address. And then we just have to wait for that to complete. And when that is done, that means we can move on to the trade. And we can actually try this and we can, well, let's see. Maybe we're not gonna do this, because if we actually do this on live, then we'll have to pay gas for the trade. And I don't know if I want to trade here. So we're gonna do the trade here directly, and then I can show you what it looks like with each. So then we're gonna actually do the swap. So let's create a function that is do swap. Because now we've checked all of the allowance stuff, then we can do the swap. So async function do swap. And here we're gonna get, once again, the actual call from the 1-inch docs, or the Moralis plugin docs. We're gonna get that in here. We get the receipt back. We can actually, let's see. Let's actually not make this async and instead return this thing. So we return the receipt back to this function. Once again, chain is going to be ETH from token address. This to token address is this amount. Maybe we can pass that in here. We pass in amount. You can also pass in address. So user address amount. And we use the amount here from address. That is our user address. Slippage, 1%, how much slippage we actually want to allow for a trade to fail, not fail, depending if it doesn't hit the exact price we want. So 1 is pretty standard. We return that ETH, there we go. That looks correct. And then here we can let receipt be equal to await this. And once that is done, we can alert swap complete. You can of course make this a lot prettier, not just alert the message. So let's see what happens now. We go to the DEX. Let's see. What line was this? Main.js 122. Not await. We're just gonna return that. Here we go. Now let's try to swap from ETH, because then we don't need the approval or allowance. And I'm going to swap to Chai. Swap 10 ETH. There we go. I need to sign in. I forgot that. Oh. We need to add a check in the init call to see if we're signed in. Okay. Swap. Amount is not defined. Let's see. Try swap 116. Here, amount is not defined. Oh. It's because that's inside of this block right here. So let's get that outside here then. We need it anyway. And then again, we can also fix our login issue. So in the init call, let's see. Here's the init function. Here it is. Should we check if we have a current user? And if we do have a current user, we will enable the actual swap button. You could also hide this button, of course, so that when you're signed in, it doesn't actually say sign in. You could hide the button. ETH do else power. I don't even know what that is. Now I can do the swap. Something went wrong. What did we do now? Okay, so that probably means that it has to do with the fact that I don't have any ETH in this wallet. Because we're on the mainnet. So let me try with another wallet just to confirm. Alright, so let me try now with the new account. It makes sense that we check the ETH balance before we actually try to swap, but the error message should be better, so I've relayed that to the team. Okay, let's try to do that swap. Is it my new ETH address? It hasn't actually swapped. We haven't provided a logout button, so that's a bit of a problem because it still thinks that I'm the old user. So let's see, how do I log out? I could clear my cookies. I would do it. Or the local storage rather. Do that and the cookies. Let's see. Refresh. Now we should not be signed in. Sign in with MetaMask. Sign. Now, finally, I am bullish. This is gonna work. Here we go. Or I don't know if I have 12 ETH. Swap. Skip that. Okay. Now we get the MetaMask. Look at that. So here we have the swap. I can do the swap, but I'm not gonna do the swap. But this is a 1-inch swap. 1 ETH for one ETH for like 2 million X and K tokens. Gas fee. Let's see, how much is the gas fee? 126 bucks. Well, that's just a bargain. That's life on ETH these days. But I'm not going to do the swap. But if you do the swap, it's going to be successful. Now, this is where I'll actually leave you guys, because now we have a working DEX. And we've created it in, I don't know how long time have we been here, an hour and a half maybe? I don't even know. What can you do to improve it then? Because, I mean, the basic functionality is here. But you know, you can do some more nice styling. You can add, you know, log out button, or you can handle the event that happens when you switch accounts in MetaMask. You can handle that and automatically log out the user or make them pick an account. That's all doable with Moralis. It's in our documentation. You could do a search function here. Not too difficult actually to do that. You could also add the fact that when I select the token here, if I go way down and select the token here, when I go into this one, I don't want to be down here. I want to be up here. I want to reset the list. I want to be up here. You could set the scroll position. You could add more messages. So for example, when I don't have the approval like I have here, maybe when I click swap, I want to get some sort of message that, okay, I need to do the approval first. I need to allow this to spend. I want to get a message about that. I think Uniswap, for example, if you don't have the allowance when you click, this button will change to like approve instead, or something like that. And then you click approve, and then you get the approval, and then you can do the swap. So you can improve this in lots of ways, but I think I'll wrap up the tutorial here because I've really shown the power of Moralis. I mean, it's so incredibly quick to get all of these pairs, all of these tokens, just populate them in the list, then very easy with the plugin to swap, to approve, all of that stuff. You don't need any ABI, you don't need any other library, you don't need to read up on any other API. It's incredible. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, make sure to check out our other tutorials here on YouTube and to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and then join the Moralis Discord, join our little community, become a Moralis mage, as we call it. And I enjoyed making this tutorial with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching.